They came with bulldozers before sunrise, thinking no one would stop them. But this land wasn't just dirt and trees. It was my family's legacy. They thought I'd fold. They thought I'd disappear quietly. What they didn't know was that I held something they couldn't buy, forge, or bury. This is the story of how one piece of paper changed everything and turned their empire into dust. I had just poured my morning coffee when I heard the roar. Not birdsong or passing traffic. Bulldozers. Engines growling like animals let loose across my land. I stepped outside and saw them bright yellow machines tearing into the far edge of my property, digging into the soil where my daughter once played and my wife once gardened. Men in hard hats, survey flags, dust in the air like smoke after an explosion. They didn't knock. They didn't call. They just came. That land wasn't just real estate to me. It was a part of who I was. My name is Jack Thompson. I'm 58 years old, a retired builder, and the third generation to care for this 5-acre piece of earth on the edge of whispering pines. This land raised me. It buried my father. It held the memories of my wife's laughter and the oak tree under which my daughter got married. I wasn't ready to let it go. But apparently, someone had decided that didn't matter. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, 35, sharply dressed, manager of the Whispering Pines, HOA. To most, she looked like progress in a pantsuit, always on her phone, always smiling like she was doing you a favor. But behind that smile was something cold, ruthless. She had a vision for the subdivision that didn't include me or my history. It started slowly, a friendly conversation at a town hall meeting. Then, subtle warnings. You know, Jack, these new developments raise property taxes. You might want to consider cashing out while prices are high. I laughed it off. I thought it was small talk. Then came the surveyors. They told me they were mapping utility lines, but they spent a lot more time measuring my fence posts than checking pipes. A week later, my property taxes shot up 40%, far above my neighbors. When I called the assessor's office, I was rerouted 5 times and left on hold until the line dropped. Then came the citations. Tall grass, unapproved garden structures, improper vehicle storage. My old Chevy pickup hadn't moved in a year, but it had never been a problem before. The letters came fast, each one colder than the last. It wasn't just pressure. It was a message: sell or be crushed. Then, one morning, I received a certified letter, an official notice of eminent domain recommendation. My property, according to the notice, was being considered for acquisition for community development in cooperation with private enterprise. What that meant, as I would find out, was a $300 million casino project built right on top of the land my grandfather had farmed by hand. I went straight to Sarah. She didn't blink. You're the only holdout. Jack, everyone else is signed. You can either take the offer and walk away with dignity or be forced out. I told her I'd do neither. I wasn't just angry. I was devastated. Most of my neighbors had already agreed to sell, lured by promises of tax exemptions and HOA perks. I felt alone, forgotten, but not everyone had abandoned me. Mrs. Peterson, a quiet widow in her 70s, knocked on my door the next day with a Tupperware of banana bread and a name: Jackson Reed, a retired land surveyor who knows where the bones are buried. She said Jackson was sharp, despite his graying beard and slow walk. He pulled out maps older than the town itself and showed me something no one else had noticed during a road expansion 15 years ago. Boundary markers had been quietly moved. It was a small shift, only a few feet, but it was enough for developers to argue that part of my land was now public utility space. They were using it as a legal wedge. That would have been enough to stop most people, but not me, because what I found next changed everything. I was digging through my grandfather's old file cabinet, half looking for birth certificates and photos, when I found a yellowed envelope marked Clearwater Rights. Inside was a deed, dated 1947, signed, sealed, and notarized, granting our family exclusive access to the underground water aquifer beneath the property, the Clearwater Basin, one of the cleanest, deepest sources of fresh water in the region. and it ran directly under my land. The developers had made one fatal assumption that they could build a casino, restaurants, fountains, golf courses, without thinking about where their water came from. But now, I had the one thing they couldn't manufacture: rights to the only viable water source in the area. I brought the documents to Eleanor Jimenez, a water rights attorney with a reputation for making corporate giants sweat. She didn't just nod, she smiled. Within a week, she filed for an emergency injunction. Construction stopped. The developers, blindsided, scrambled to respond. Sarah tried to dismiss it publicly, claiming I was stalling. But the court didn't see it that way. The judge ordered all construction to halt until the water rights could be evaluated. Then came discovery. We requested environmental impact reports, water usage projections, and permit applications. What we found: they had no long-term water plan. None. They had gambled everything on quietly forcing me out before the paperwork caught up. That's when I went public. I shared my story online, photos of my land, videos of the bulldozers, proof of the harassment. The community response was overwhelming, not just from Whispering Pines, but from the whole region. Environmental groups got involved. News crews showed up. Sarah and her partners went from confident to cornered. The final blow came in court. Eleanor presented the original deed, the surveyor's testimony, and the developer's own water consumption plans. The judge ruled in our favor on every count. The casino would have to revise its design, reroute construction, and pay damages for environmental negligence and unlawful pressure tactics. But I wasn't interested in cash. I asked for something else: a park. They agreed. My land remained untouched. My home was declared a historical landmark. The developers were required to build around it and to fund a local water trust using proceeds from the casino. Thompson Green Park now stands as a buffer between the casino and the community, a living symbol of what happens when you fight back. The HOA board was replaced in a special election. Transparency laws were pushed through, and my wife's name now adorns a scholarship fund paid for by the trust, helping local students pursue environmental law. I sit on my porch now, overlooking a green field and the old oak tree. I see children playing where developers once planned a parking lot. I see neighbors waving again, and I hear water running beneath it all, quiet, steady. Mine. They thought I'd give up. They thought I was just one man, but I had history behind me, and I had the truth.